Well, hello and welcome to Just a Moment. My name is Kristen Harding. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to finish up the Four Agreements. But before I do that, I like to do a blessing card right at the beginning of the show because it gives people some time to get here and some time to say hello. We may have a guest or two joining us. We'll have to see. If so, it should be very cool. So, as I said, we're going to finish up the Four Agreements today. And the Four Agreements is ancient Celtic wisdom. And just to give you a brief refresher, the Four Agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So before we finish that up, the blessing for today is a blessing on your wisdom. You can see that without the sign of the, there we go. So that card is number 36 in the blessing book. So I'm just going to go there real quick. There we go. A blessing on your wisdom. It says, a blessing to grow and develop wise ways within our lives, for us to respond from a place of experience and consideration, married with instinct and intuition. Wisdom is a word used so often, yet when we begin to examine it, we wonder if we ever truly knew what it meant at all. For wisdom is the way of the wise, and who is wise? Those who know it. What do they know? They know how the world is and how it works. Yet they are not jaded or lacking in openness to change. Wise ways are those that come from a wealth of experience and contemplation, of gathering information on the road of life, of having spoken to many humans and drunk from many wells. It is a knowledge of our own nature and of the natural world itself. Wisdom sees clearly and understands the potential consequences of actions. We ask now for a blessing on your wisdom, that you may grow in your wise ways, and that no experience in this life shall be wasted. That from every encounter and every interaction with human and animal, tree and stone, you begin to observe keenly how the world works and the natural way of things. You begin to understand deeply through experience the fall of leaves and the quiet cold of winter, the shuddering rebirth of spring and the fullness of light and warmth that is summer. Every season is your teacher. You come to know you can be of assistance, but you cannot force. You come to acknowledge your influence, but your lack of control. You strive to always be a positive influence and an example of kindness within the world. And you use your anger and your dissatisfaction to motivate you to create a better world within your own life. And through that, you influence all that is around and about you. To be wise is to grow and to change and to still be hopeful and kind and good. It is no longer to be gullible or foolish or naive. It is to know how to act and to behave in ways that others can draw strength from. So, friend, a blessing on your wisdom, that the wise ways, the wise blood shall rise and sing their song of experience to you once again. Isn't that beautiful? Well, hello, Paul. Hi, Benny. Benny says, hello, Kristen. And wisdom is so needed with us all. Oh, yes, isn't it? Don't be deceived, guys. There's going to be so many paths offered that you can follow. Make sure that you stick to what resonates inside of you and is your truth, because that's the only truth that really matters. So let's get back to the book. I'm going to show it to you. The Four Agreements, and the author's name is Don Miguel Ruiz. And I've really enjoyed bringing this to you, but we're almost done. Oh darn, we're going to have to find a new book. So let's see. Where did we leave off? And so, I'm balancing the book and the phone at the same time. So if I'm not always looking at the camera, that's why. So we are on page 93 already. Last chapter. Chapter 6, The Toltec Path to Freedom. Everyone talks about freedom. All around the world, different people, different races, different countries are fighting for freedom. But what is freedom? In America, we speak of living in a free country. But are we really free? Are we free to be who we really are? The answer is no, we are not free. Freedom has to do with the human spirit. It is the freedom to be who we really are. Who stops us from being free? We blame the government, we blame the weather, we blame our parents, we blame religion, we blame God. Who really stops us from being free? We stop ourselves. What does it really mean to be free? Sometimes we get married and we say that we lose our freedom. Then we get divorced, but we're still not free. What stops us? Why can't we be ourselves? We have memories of long ago when we used to be free and we loved being free, but we've forgotten what freedom really means. If we see a child who is 2 or 3, perhaps 4 years old, we find a free human. Why is this human free? Because this human does whatever he or she wants to do. This human is completely wild, just like a flower, a tree, or an animal that has not been domesticated wild. And if we observe humans who are 2 years old, we find that most of the time these humans have a big smile on their face and they're having fun. They are exploring the world. They're not afraid to play. They are afraid when they're hurt, when they're hungry, when some of their needs are not met. But they don't worry about the past, don't care about the future, and they only live in the present moment. Very young children are not afraid to express what they feel. They are so loving that if they perceive love, they melt into love. They are not afraid to love at all. That is the description of a normal human being. As children, we are not afraid of the future or ashamed of the past. Our normal human tendency is to enjoy life, to play, to explore, to be happy, and to love. But what happened with the adult human? Why are we so different? Why are we not wild? From the point of view of the victim, we can say that something sad happened to us. And from the point of view of the warrior, we can say that what happened to us is normal. What has happened is that we have the book of law, the big judge, and the victim who rules our lives. We are no longer free because the judge, the victim, and the belief system don't allow us to be who we really are. Once our minds have been programmed with all that garbage, we are no longer happy. This chain of training from human to human, from generation to generation, is perfectly normal in human society. You don't need to blame your parents for teaching you to be like them. What else could they teach you but what they knew? They did the best that they could, and if they abused you, it was due to their own domestication, their own fears. their own beliefs. They had no control over the programming they received, so they couldn't have behaved any differently. There is no need to blame your parents or anyone who abused you in your life, including yourself. But it is time to stop the abuse. It is time to free yourself of the tyranny of the judge by changing the foundation of your own agreements. It is time to be free from the role of victim. The real you is still a little child who never grew up. Sometimes that little child comes out when you are having fun or playing, when you feel happy, when you are painting or writing poetry, or playing the piano or expressing yourself in some way. These are the happiest moments of your life. When the real you comes out, when you don't care about the past, and you don't worry about the future. You are childlike. But there is something that changes all that. We call them responsibilities. The judge says, wait a second, you are responsible. The judge says, you have things to do. You have to work. You have to go to school. You have to earn a living. All these responsibilities come to our mind. Our face changes and becomes serious again. If you watch children when they are playing adults, you will see their little faces change. Let's pretend I'm a lawyer, and right away their face changes, and the adult face takes over. We go to court, and that is the face we see, and that is what we are. We are still children, but we have lost our freedom. The freedom we are looking for is the freedom to be ourselves, to express ourselves. But if we look at our lives, we will see that most of the time we do things just to please others, just to be accepted by others rather than living our lives to please ourselves. That is what happened to our freedom. And we see in our society and all the societies around the world that for every 1,000 people, 999 are completely domesticated. The worst part is that most of us are not even aware that we are not free, but we do not understand what it is and why we are not free. The problem with most people is that they live their lives and never discover that the judge and the victim rule their mind, and therefore they don't have a chance to be free. The first step towards personal freedom is awareness. We need to be aware that we are not free in order to be free. We need to be aware of what the problem is in order to solve the problem. Awareness is always the first step, because if you are not aware, there's nothing you can change. If you are not aware that your mind is full of wounds and emotional poison, you cannot begin to clean and heal the wounds, and you will continue to suffer. There is no reason to suffer. With awareness, you can rebel and say, this is enough. You can look for a way to heal and transform your personal dream. The dream of the planet is just a dream. It is not even real. If you go into the dream and start challenging your beliefs, you will find that most of the beliefs that guided you into the wounded mind are not even true. You will find that you suffered all those years of drama for nothing. Why? Because the belief system that was put inside your mind was based on lies. That is why it is important for you to master your own dream. That is why the Toltecs became dream masters. Your life is the manifestation of your dream. It is an art. And you can change your life anytime if you aren't enjoying the dream. There we go. Dream masters create a masterpiece of life. They control the dream by making choices. Everything has consequences, and a dream master is aware of the consequences. To be Toltec is a way of life. It is a way of life where there are no leaders and no followers, where you have your own truth and live your own truth. A Toltec becomes wise because wild is wisdom, and wisdom is to become free again. There are three masteries that lead people to become Toltecs. The first is the mastery of awareness. This is to be aware of who we really are with all the possibilities. The second is the mastery of transformation, how to change, how to be free of domestication. The third is the mastery of intent. Intent from the Toltec point of view is that part of life that makes transformation of energy possible. It is the one living being that seamlessly encompasses all energy, or what we call God. Intent is life itself. It is unconditional love. The mastery of intent is therefore the mastery of love. When we talk about the Toltec path to freedom, we find that they have an entire map for breaking free of domestication. They compare the judge, the victim, and the belief system to a parasite that invades the human mind. From the Toltec point of view, all humans who are domesticated are sick. They are sick because there is a parasite that controls the mind and controls the brain. The food for the parasite is the negative emotions that come from fear. If we look at the description of a parasite, we find that a parasite is a living being who lives off another living being, sucking their energy without any useful contribution in return, and hurting their host little by little. The judge, the victim, and the belief system fit this description very well. Together, they comprise a living being made of psychic or emotional energy, and that energy is alive. Of course, it is not material energy, but neither are emotions material energy. Our dreams are not material energy either, but we know they exist. Our function of the brain is to transform material energy into emotional energy. Our brain is a factory of emotions, and we have said that the main function of the mind is to dream. The Toltecs believe that the parasite, the judge, the victim, and the belief system has control of your mind. It controls your personal dream. The parasite dreams through your mind and lives its life through your body. It survives on the emotions that come from fear and thrives on drama and suffering. The freedom we seek is to use our mind and body to live our own life instead of the life of the belief system. When we discover that the mind is controlled by the judge and the victim and the real us is in the corner, we have just two choices. One choice is to keep living the way that we are, to surrender to the judge and the victim, and to keep living in the dream of the planet. The second choice is to do what we do as children when parents try to domesticate us. We can rebel and say, no. We can declare a war against a parasite, a war against the judge and the victim, a war for our independence, a war for the right to use our own mind and our own brains. This is why in all the shamanic traditions in America, from Canada to Argentina, people call themselves warriors because they are in a war against the parasite in the mind. That is the real meaning of the warrior. The warrior is one who rebels against the invasion of a parasite. The warrior rebels and declares a war. But to be a warrior doesn't mean that we always win the war. We may win or we may lose, but we always do our best, and at least we have a chance to be free again. Choosing this path gives us, at the very least, the dignity of rebellion and ensures that we will not be a helpless victim of our own whimsical emotions or the poisonous emotions of others. Even if we succumb to the enemy, the parasite, we will not be among those victims who would not fight back. At best, being a warrior gives us an opportunity to transcend the dream of the planet and to change our personal dream to a dream that we call heaven. Just like hell, heaven is a place that exists within our own mind. It is a place of joy, a place where we can be happy, where we are free to love and to be who we really are. We can reach heaven while we are alive. We don't have to wait until we die. God is always present and the kingdom of heaven is everywhere. But first we need to have the eyes and the ears to see and hear that truth. We need to be free of the parasite. The parasite can be compared to a monster with 1,000 heads. Every head of the parasite is one of the fears that we have. If we want to be free, we have to destroy the parasite. One solution is to attack the parasite head by head, which means we face each one of our fears one by one. This is a slow process, but it works. Every time we face one of those fears, we are a little more free. A second approach is to stop feeding the parasite. If we don't give the parasite any food, we kill the parasite by starvation. To do this, we have to gain control of our emotions. We have to refrain from fueling the emotions that came from fear. This is easy to say, but very difficult to do. It is difficult because the judge and the victim control our mind. A third solution is called the initiation of the dead. The initiation of the dead is found in many traditions and esoteric schools around the world. We find it in Egypt, India, Greece, and America. This is a symbolic death which kills the parasite without harming our physical body. When we die symbolically, the parasite has to die. This is faster than the first two solutions, but it is even more difficult to do. We need a great deal of courage to face the angel of death. We need to be very strong. Let's take a closer look at each of these solutions. Let me take a sip of water, excuse me. Solutions. The art of transformation, the dream of the second attention. We have learned that the dream you are living in now is the result of the outside dream hooking your attention and feeding you back all of your beliefs. The process of domestication can be called the dream of the first attention because it was how your attention was used for the first time to create the first dream of your life. One way to change your belief is to focus all of your attention on all those agreements and beliefs and change the agreements with yourself. In doing this, you are using your attention for the second time, thus creating the dream of the second attention or the new dream. The difference is that you are no longer innocent. When you were a child, this was not true. You didn't have a choice. But you are no longer a child. Now it's up to you to choose what to believe in and what not to believe in. You can choose to believe in anything, and that includes believing in yourself. The first step is to become aware of the fog that is in your mind. You must become aware that you are dreaming all of the time. Only with awareness do we have the possibility of transforming your dream. If you have the awareness that the whole drama of your life is the result of what you believe, and what you believe is not real, then you can begin to change it. However, to really change your beliefs, you need to focus your attention on what it is that you want to change. You have to know which agreements you want to change before you can change them. So the next step is to develop awareness of all the self-limiting, fear-based beliefs that make you unhappy. You take an inventory of all that you believe, all of your agreements, and through the process you begin the transformation. The Toltecs called this the art of transformation. It's a whole mastery. You achieve the mastery of transformation by changing the fear-based agreements that make you suffer and reprogramming your own mind in your own way. One of the ways to do this is to explore and adopt alternative beliefs, such as the four agreements. The decision to adopt the four agreements is a declaration of war to regain your freedom from the parasite. The four agreements offer the possibility of ending the emotional pain, which can open up the door for you to enjoy your life and begin a new dream. It's up to you to explore the possibilities of your dream if you are interested. The four agreements were created to assist you in the art of turning the page. No, in the art of transformation to help you break the limiting agreements, gain more personal power, and become stronger. The stronger you get, the more agreements you can break until the moment comes when you can make it to the core of all of those agreements. Going to the core of those agreements is what I call going into the desert. When you face, I'm hearing so much background noise, I wish it would go away. Background noise, please go away. There we go. I think that worked. Going to the core of those agreements is what I call going to the desert. When you go into the desert, you meet your demons face to face. After coming out of the desert, all of those demons become angels. Practicing the four new agreements is a big act of power. Breaking the spell of black magic in your mind requires great personal power. Every time you break an agreement, you gain extra power. You start by breaking agreements that are very small and require less power. And those small agreements are broken. Your personal power will increase until you reach a point when you can finally face the big demons in your mind. For example, the little girl who was told not to sing is now 20 years old, and she still does not sing. One way that she can overcome the belief that her voice is ugly is to say, okay, well, I will try to sing even if I do sing badly. Then she can pretend that someone is clapping and telling her, oh, that was beautiful. This may break the agreement a teeny tiny bit, but it will still be there. However, now she has a little more power and courage to try again and again and again until finally she breaks the agreement. That's one way out of the dream of hell. But for every agreement you break that makes you suffer, you will need to replace it with a new agreement that makes you happy. This will keep the old agreement from coming back. If you occupy the same space with a new agreement, then the old agreement is gone forever, and in its place is the new agreement. There are many strong beliefs in the mind that can make this process look hopeless. This is why you need to go step by step and be patient with yourself, because this is a slow process. The way you are living now is the result of many years of domestication. You cannot expect to break the domestication in one day. Breaking agreements is very difficult because we put the power of the word, which is the power of our will, into every agreement we have made. We need the same amount of power to change an agreement. We cannot change an agreement with less power than we used to make the agreement. And almost all of our personal power is invested in keeping the agreements we have with ourselves. That's because our agreements are actually like a strong addiction. We are addicted to being the way we are. We are addicted to anger and jealousy and self-pity. We are addicted to the beliefs that tell us, I'm not good enough. I'm not intelligent enough. Why even try? Other people will do it because they're better than me. All of these old agreements which rule our dream of life are the result of repeating them over and over again. Therefore, to adopt the four agreements, you need to put repetition into action. Practicing the new agreements in your life is how your best becomes better. Repetition makes the master. The discipline of the warrior. Controlling your own behavior. Imagine that you awake early one morning, overflowing with enthusiasm for the day. You feel good, you are happy, and have plenty of energy to face the day. Then at breakfast, you have a big fight with your spouse, and a flood of emotion comes out. You get mad, and the emotion of your anger, in that you spend a lot of personal power. After the fight, you feel drained, and you just want to go and cry. In fact, you feel so tired that you go to your room, collapse, and try to recover. You spend the day wrapped up in your emotions. You have no energy to keep going, and you just want to walk away from everything. Every day we awake with a certain amount of mental, emotional, and physical energy that we spend throughout the day. If we allow our emotions to deplete our energy, we have no energy to change our lives or to give to others. The way you see the world will depend upon the emotions that you are feeling. When you are angry, everything around you is wrong. Nothing is right. You blame everything, including the weather, whether it's raining or the sun is shining. Nothing pleases you. When you are sad, everything around you is sad, and it makes you cry. You see the trees and you feel sad. You see the rain and everything looks sad. Perhaps you feel vulnerable and have a need to protect yourself because you don't know in what moment someone will attack you. You do not trust anything or anyone around you. This is because you see the world through the eyes of fear. Excuse me. Imagine that the human mind is the same as your skin. You can touch healthy skin and it feels wonderful. Your skin is made for perception, and the sensation of touch is wonderful. Now imagine that you have an injury and the skin gets cut and infected. If you touch the infected skin, it's going to hurt, so you try to cover and protect the skin. You will not enjoy being touched because it hurts. Now imagine that all humans have the skin disease. Nobody can touch each other because it's going to hurt. Everyone has wounds on their skin, so the infection is seen as normal. The pain is also considered normal. We believe we are supposed to be that way. Can you imagine how we would behave with each other if all the humans in the world had this skin disease? Of course, we would hardly ever hug each other because it would be too painful. So we would need to create a lot of distance between us. The human mind is exactly like this description of infected skin. Every human has an emotional body completely covered with infected wounds. Each wound is infected with emotional poison, the poison of all the emotions that make us suffer, such as hate, anger, envy, and sadness. An action of injustice opens a wound in the mind, and we react with emotional poison because of the concepts and beliefs we have about injustice and what is fair. The mind is so wounded and full of poison by the process of domestication that everyone describes the wounded mind as normal. This is considered normal, but I can tell you it is not normal. We have dysfunctional dreams on this planet, and humans are mentally sick with a disease called fear. The symptoms of the disease are all the emotions that make humans suffer: anger, hate, sadness, envy, betrayal. When the fear is too great, the reasoning mind begins to fail, and we call this mental illness. Psychotic behavior occurs when the mind is so frightened and the wound so painful that it seems better to break contact with the outside world. If we can see our state of mind as a disease, we find that there is a cure. We don't have to suffer any longer. First, we need the truth to open the emotional wounds, take the poison out, and heal the wound completely. How do we do this? We must forgive those we feel have wronged us, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because we love ourselves so much that we don't want to keep paying for the injustice. Forgiveness is the only way to heal. We can choose to forgive because we feel compassion for ourselves. We can let go of the resentment and declare, that's enough. I will no longer be the big judge that goes against myself. I will no longer be a victim. First, we need to forgive our parents, our brothers, our sisters, our friends, and God. Once you forgive God, you can finally forgive yourself. And once you forgive yourself, the self-rejection in your mind is over. Self-acceptance begins, and the self-love will grow so strong that you will finally accept yourself just the way you are. That's the beginning of the free human. Forgiveness is the key. You will know you have forgiven someone when you see them and you no longer have an emotional reaction. You will hear You will hear the name of the person and you will have no emotional reaction. When someone can touch what used to be a wound and it no longer hurts you, then you know you have truly forgiven. The truth is like a scalpel. The truth is painful because it opens all of the wounds which are covered by lies so that we can be healed. These lies sorry about this. There we go. These lies are what we call the denial system. It's a good thing we have the denial system because it allows us to cover our wounds and still function. But we no longer have any wounds or any poison. We don't need to lie anymore. We don't need the denial system because we have a healthy mind. Like healthy skin, it can be touched without hurting. It's a pleasure for the mind to be touched when it's clean. The problem with most people is that they lose control of their emotions. It is the emotions that control the behavior of the human, not the human who controls the emotions. That's fascinating to me because all my life I've been told to control my emotions. And believe it or not, after having a mini stroke, it's even harder. So it is the emotions that control the behavior of the human, not the human who controls the emotions. When we lose control, we say things that we don't want to say and do things that we don't want to do. That is why it is so important to be impeccable with our word and to become a spiritual warrior. We must learn to control the emotions so we have enough personal power to change our fear-based agreements, escape from hell, and create our own personal heaven. How are we to become a warrior? There are certain characteristics of the warrior that are nearly the same all around the world. The warrior has awareness. That's very important. We are aware that we are at war, and the war in our minds requires discipline. Not the discipline of a soldier, but the discipline of a warrior. Not the discipline from the outside to tell us what to do and what not to do, but the discipline to be ourselves no matter what. The warrior has control, not control over another human, but control over one's emotions, control over one's own self. It is when we lose control that we repress the emotions, not when we are in control. The big difference between a warrior and a victim is that the victim represses and the warrior refrains. The victims repress because they are afraid to show the emotions, afraid to say what they want to say. To refrain is not the same thing as repression. To refrain is to hold the emotions and to express them in the right moment, not before, not later. That is why warriors are impeccable. They have complete control over their own emotions and therefore their own behavior. The initiation of the dead, embracing the angel of death. The final way to attain personal freedom is to prepare ourselves for the initiation of the dead, to take death itself as our teacher. What the angel of death can teach us is how to truly be alive. We become aware that we can die at any moment. We have just the present to be alive. The truth is that we don't know if we are going to die tomorrow. Who knows? We have the idea that we have many years in the future, but do we? If we go to the hospital and the doctor tells us we have 1 week to live, what are we going to do? As we have said before, we have two choices. One is to suffer because we are going to die, and to tell everyone, poor me, I'm going to die, and really create a huge drama. The other choice is to use every moment to be happy and to do what we really enjoy doing. If we have only 1 week left to live, let's enjoy life. Let's be alive. We can say, I'm going to be myself. No longer am I going to run my life trying to please other people. No longer am I going to be afraid of what they think about me. What do I care what others think of me if I'm going to die in 1 week? I'm going to be myself. The angel of death can teach us to live every day as if it is the last day of our lives, as if there may be no tomorrow. Ah, I think we have a guest here.
Hello, Kristen. How are you?
Ooh, it's really loud, Jenny. Can you turn down a little bit?
Can I what?
Can you speak a little?
Yeah, I had to go to the tablet because on my phone it did something else because we're in that StreamYard. Can you? I can hear you. Okay.
Yeah, but you're really loud. You're blasting my ears.
Okay. Let me turn. Well, I don't know. Let me go find the microphone. There it is. Oh, not that one.
Usually I have to turn people up.
So maybe I'll talk more because yeah, I got the volume all the way up on this because I got you everywhere on here, man. This is just a moment, so they got to wait just a moment because Minister Ki is gonna put it everywhere because the energy and the message is so awesome. You know, I really been enjoying just listening because you've been talking about the agreements that we make, and you've talked to me about them before, about definitely understanding the dreamer and the dream are all in the same, and breaking those things that you were speaking about. Some might be call them inflections. Some people have heard of positive inflections to yourself when you get up in the morning, say that you're going to do this, you're going to do.
Positive affirmations. Oop, I think we lost Benny. I still see you, I just do not hear you. Might want to pop out and come back in. It happens. I'll
That you're
give
going to
him a
achieve, and I feel what
Sometimes the
you that were
internet.
put in place before we were here.
You kind of faded in and out there. Do you want to repeat what you said? Well, goodness, we lost him again. Well, I'm just going to keep reading. A little bit more. Just a little bit. And we'll see if he comes back. That was Mr. Benny C. Trent, by the way. And, oh, he is back. Okay. Let me get you back on the studio.
Yes,
There we go.
I'm back.
You're back. I can see your
Yeah,
light, but not you. There you go.
yeah. You see, I had to jump back to the phone. You see how even the name changed there from Prophet Ki, something I'm elevating myself, and these are stage names. So a lot of people, get confused in my names when they see like Minister Ki, the Anunnaki teacher. Even like yourself, because I know that you talk. I'm sorry, I just went elsewhere with the show here, but I love. I don't know where you left off reading the last 3 minutes. I was getting out the car, but how you used to be a minister and how you used to be a preacher, how you
I'm
used to
still
be
a minister. I'm still a
a
preacher. It's just
amen.
that I do not follow what normal Christians follow, I guess is what you would say, because I am not judgmental. I am not narrow-minded. I do not believe that there is one path. I do not believe that you can make a wrong choice spiritually, finding your own truth, you know.
Mhm.
So I don't follow a lot of dogma, and I follow more of the path of the ascended Christ, whose
Yes.
name was Sananda, or is
Mhm.
Sananda. And there are
Right.
some really beautiful channelings, and they're all about love. And as far as I know, that's what the real message, the Christos consciousness, is all about, is remembering that we're here to love each other and walk each other home.
Amen, sister. And I love how you just said that. And just for me, I'm always trying to just make sure those that might go over your head when you said the ascended Christ. And that's so key because that's why I was telling someone the other day about that Christianity's real message that the Christ gave was showing that ascension.
Yes,
And like what you just said, that the ascended Christ isn't, he became no more of that name, just like Enoch became Metatron, because
right?
that ascended Christ is on that other level that we're striving to get to. I just had to interject and give you
Imagine if you were not bound by human constraints. Imagine
my
if you saw everything clearly as your Father intended, sources intended you to see it with no limitation, and you understood everything because it was interlinked. That's
right.
what you do when you ascend. You see everything.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing. And even in the early stages of ascension, because some people they have this concept of just I'm awake now and I'm fully awake when that's not true. Just like you said, those levels of ascension, even the Christ himself, I'll say the Christ, because some people will say Jesus, Yeshua, and all the other earthly names that didn't come from the Hebrew text, but just think if you spelled Yeshua in a different country, it probably wouldn't look the same or sound the same, but it meant the same thing. So, but
Yes,
that
it was
Christ consciousness, and I think
in,
that's where, huh?
in the Greek, it's Issa.
hmm And when you was also saying about you were talking in the book just before the dreamer and dream and understanding the wisdom of themselves is what I felt a lot of strength in what you those books was talking to me that that inner self that we pay no attention. We got so many I got so many body pains, my shoulder, my and someone asked me, how are you doing? I said, my body or my mind. you know One could be feeling great, but have a distorted mind or pains, like you were talking about. Some of the pains that those are contracts
Right,
that we have to loosen ourselves from to get away from to make some of this thing, your brain, stop thinking that you have this pain because the brain is causing the pain. The brain is
right.
not causing the pain, but the brain is the one that's sending out the sensors to have that pain. So when you break
It
those contracts, you start breaking some of these different
acknowledges, it
yeah, most
acknowledges it, right?
definitely. Yes, most definitely. Rebel Ray says, hello, gorgeous. I wonder, you must be talking to Kristen, not me, Ray, out there.
He's my beauty. I love Rebel Ray.
Oh, man. I love the gifts that both of you guys have sent me. But, man, she sent me my shark's tooth with the
Isn't it
explanation
amazing?
of shark tooth and the abilities, protection, power. She's so awesome. So
I
I tell
know.
her, after this broadcast, I'm gonna try to talk her. Let's just go on to a live one and let's just show some of the stones and things you got. Yeah, I'm talking to you out there, Ray. She says, what did she say? The Hebrew word. Can you see it? Hebrew word
Yes,
for God.
the Hebrew word for God is referred to as the Tetragrammaton, which is the four letters. It is a translated YHVH or Yahweh. It is the proper name of God in the Hebrew Bible, written without vowels and traditionally not pronounced in Judaism, often replaced with titles like Adonai, my Lord.
Right.
That's correct. And in fact, something interesting, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this, but there is a passage in the Bible where it says, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. And they kept it in the original Aramaic because they didn't have the right translation. Because
Mm.
it was supposed to be Eli, Eli, lamana sabachthani. And it changes the whole meaning. And here we go. You ready to be floored?
Come on.
Eli, Eli, lamana sabachthani. My God, for this was I spared.
Mm.
Not, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's all in the translation.
All right.
Isn't it crazy?
And that's, you send me all kind of places, but you just took me to like the crucifixion when he says Elohim, Elohim. I don't know the rest of the Hebrew word, but the translation after that is why have you forsaken me?
That's what I
So
was quoting. It's Eli, Eli, lamana sabachthani.
right,
Yeah,
why have you forsaken me? And
yeah, but it's not. It's why, for this was I spared.
mm,
He was
right,
more. He was more than an earthly man. He was
right,
spared the death of an earthly man,
or the pains of being a human.
right?
And that's what that's that spiritual level that we have inside of us that's awesome, that when you start getting into yourself and understanding self, and some of these things that we need to know have been kept from us. You
Right?
know me, I'm an advocate against, apocrypha type things, that I believe that our society would have progressed even a little more than where we're at today, because it's proven that some of the ones that did that. The Egyptians, what do you call it? The Atlanteans, and it's so many more that people don't even know about.
Right.
Well, they
The
just like,
Atlanteans, the Lemurians, the people of Mu all had their own spirituality and they were all part of great civilizations, but they were removed from existence.
yes. I was watching a video last night that was the guy gave me a little more. I mean, I know you've spoken of the Lyrans, and number four that we know has spoken of the Lyrans before, but now I understand, because he had told me what they actually, he associated the
They,
two when they were talking about the Watchers, the shiny
the,
ones, different things
the,
like that.
the Lyrans seeded humanity onto many planets.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
ancient Lyrans.
Yes.
According to a friend of mine who did a reading without me asking, I am one of those soul memory, one of those ancient lyrics. And I
Yes,
came
ma'am.
back to help humanity ascend. Now, this is not me talking, this is someone else, okay? But that's my mission to help humanity ascend. How am I
I,
doing?
I understand and believe it, and you're doing great. You're doing what
Sometimes
you
it doesn't
called
feel
to
like
do.
it, let me tell you. Doesn't it feel like sometimes we just get a little blocked,
Yes. Yeah, we do. Like I said, we start things and don't finish them.
right?
We great to we love basketball and the games, just like the Romans put in front of us, and we want to see somebody win. We're too busy thinking about that win that you was talking about, and you was talking about that warrior. Sometimes you don't win, but you stand for a cause. If you're a
Yes.
warrior and you believe in what it is that you're trying to achieve, and to be a warrior to self, to believe in
Right.
yourself, like you were saying that book was talking that you was reading into. I'm like I told you, Kristen, I've been waiting for your shows to come back on for so long. I've been waiting on the readings and the positive energy. I mean,
Oh,
because
thank
it's,
you.
I hate when, I'm involved in, that a few different shows, that the different ways that we go about doing things that help us on the inside, or help us see more of ourselves, or even help us see where we wasn't ourselves, but we're still that soul that's going through these different chances to remember things. And don't think about the negative in life, think about the beauties in life. That's how you get to the
Exactly.
peanut. Like when you were saying, when you're sad and you see a tree and it make you start crying, or something, because you're stuck in that agreement, or as I would say, that loop has caught
Yeah.
you in it. So you let your mind agree to keep that in there and keep you in that cycle. So break the chains, get that freedom that you were speaking about. That freedom.
Exactly. And that I believe is what Source wants us to be is free. We
Yes,
have
ma'am.
put these limitations on ourselves because of our conditioning and our domestication. But once we break that programming and we learn to live fully and freely, we become so much more than the shadow of what we used to be.
Right. And that's where a lot of the different things. That's why so many people, I'm gonna say like this, really lost. They're lost into religions because religions are lost not just in the religion, not that I'm talking about, but been disconnected through for so long on what the natural. We don't even have the Bible that's Bible here in
Right?
America.
The Ethiopian Bible is the true Bible, but you cannot get a copy of it that hasn't
The true
been
Bible.
mistranslated unless you go to like an antique store or into an
Mhm.
antiquarian bookstore. You can't find one. We were talking about books
Right.
earlier, how, some books are prohibitively expensive, even though you really want to read them. And I'm thinking to
Oh,
myself, I'm so grateful to those authors that keep them affordable.
right. And that's important. I remember I seen you all speaking about that in the chat. That if you really want people to heal and understand, hey, make it where you can get to it. Don't make it with just royalty like they did in the past with those apocryphal books, the royalties and those that were supposed to be able. You can get ascension, but you can't hear the truth of your own
Yes.
religion. So we'll give you this piece.
That was
That's what
what Jesus ran into trouble with when he was preaching in India, because those of a certain caste were not allowed to hear the words. They were not allowed to learn the knowledge. And he's like, he broke those rules. He broke them all. He said,
right.
no, everyone should have the right. Well, hello, Christopher. And no, I will not roar, but I will purr.
Yeah. Me and Chris, we was just in a conversation in one of the chats about you know, um, it kind of hits on what you're speaking about it, but it kind of goes deep because we were talking about galaxies colliding and black holes, and then
Yes,
it went to just imagine all of that we as humans are dealing with, or really now have the understanding to understand that these things are cosmically happening, and that one day this Earth is going to do something. It's been in the E cycle of this planet for a while. That things are going to change, but then looking at the flip side of a white hole, which is the other side of that black hole. Now, if we're living in this world where we're just have the event horizon of that black hole and just understood this, imagine if to live on that other side of that. And that's where it becomes where we understand that this physical energy that you have in you now is not going to always be in this body. That energy never dissipates. Is I know one of the angelic messages that you're bringing to people, Kristen, and
energy
it's her.
bendings.
Yes,
I
and
mentioned a friend of mine because he had a situation where he's very in touch with nature. And one of his little friends that he had befriended came up to him and passed away right next to him. And I suggested that he sing that little soul over to the other side, you know,
yeah,
because our our nature friends, birds, um, anything that you can think of, squirrels, little gophers, little chipmunks, anything that you can think of. My special favorite, raccoons, they're so
mm,
attuned to us. So many people think that they're pests. Oh, not me. I think that they are just adorable creatures of nature. And those
they're
few of
smart.
us that do love them, they feel that. And so, to me, it is the height of a compliment when an animal chooses to be around your energy, because it's soothing and it is bringing it peace as it passes.
And ain't it beautiful when you're in tune like that, and you can tell when like your cat smiling at you, or your dog is just he's letting you know, hey, I am so happy, or even a squirrel It just gives you that look like, hey, you must be pretty cool because he's feeling those vibes. You know,
right?
he's feeling that that third brain because we have more than just one brain. We have a brain here, the heart's a brain, and your gut instincts is a brain. If you understand what a brain is out there, I'm just preaching to people like I always do, or ministering, I should say. I don't preach no more. I'm a
You see
bad
me
boy.
breathing my leg, right?
Uh, and you're one of those that I would say, Christian. You don't speak from your head; you speak from the heart, and that's what's
Always.
awesome. And so many of us we get caught
I
up in,
come
even
from,
myself, in an
I
ego
sing
of some sort.
from, I
You
paint
know,
from the heart. I've had no lessons whatsoever on either of them, singing or painting, and yet I do both because it's what needs to come out.
hmm correct, Christopher. It has to. You know,
He
that
was
just
with
like that other
me.
side of that black hole. You know, the Shiva is so. I love Shiva and the Indians that with destruction comes renewal, but you know, it's not to be destructive because everything is, you know, destroys. That's another thing me and Christopher was talking about. We was talking about expansion because everything in the universe, everything in universes, every universe, because from that big thing, it's all expanding.
Right,
We and our intelligence is expanding. Our consciousness is expanding. Energy is expanding. We might be just stuck in this meat puppet. So sometimes we're going to feel these effects, different pains and different things that we haven't had back in before 2026.
right.
And you know, I try to make people aware of the sign of the times. You know, a lot of people always say that I'm a doomsday seeker, you know, conspirator, you know. But no, I look at a lot of things and I don't try to pick an end of the days. I try to explain to people that they will end because it has happened over and over again. It's a cycle.
Yeah,
But you know, to understand our purpose and what we do in this life, that's to be found. That's
right.
what God's telling you to seek because you're going to go through things at 18, 19. I'm talking to the old, above 18, 20. But look, I'm 57 and I still ain't went through everything.
I'm
So
almost 63, and
get
I
out
have
of here.
not
You ain't nothing
been through
but 25
everything.
years old. Cut it out, Kristen. You ain't gonna tell me that.
Excuse me, my son is in his 40s, and all of my
Well,
grandchildren would disagree with you. I'm quite old. But
all
no,
right.
I was on my next show. I'm going to be talking about different frequencies because my daughter-in-law sent me out of the blue, and I just love this when this happens, okay? Please understand that. But out of the
Yes, sir.
blue, she sent me something that was a healing frequency code. And I
Mm,
looked at her and I had to send one right back to her because I'm like, oh my goodness, she is speaking manifestation codes.
right.
And so on my next show, we're going to go into those manifestation codes, what
Mm,
they are, what they mean, how they came about. And this gentleman that created it is the same age as me. He was born in 1963. So I was
mm.
just fascinated by that because even though I'm so old, I still feel young.
Because you are. It's because like you let some of those contracts go. You
Yeah. Oh,
unsigned
me too.
yourself,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, and I like I said, I'm gonna just tell you the book I was reading that you might well one day want to read some of it. I was reading book three of Enoch, which is one of the apocryphal books. But that's what I
Mhm.
was in yesterday, and it just like I said,
I
each
know. I read it.
you know,
Um, the thing that I found fascinating, and you'll have to tell me what you think, that the fallen angels wanted women that looked more like men. They didn't have the curves. They wanted them straight up and down and look like men with boobs.
that's their
They wanted
taste.
them to
Hey,
they wanted them
everybody
to
has
use
their own
cosmetics. You know, they
taste.
wanted them to use cosmetics. They wanted
Right,
to pollute what God created.
correct,
And I was just
correct.
like, way back in the very beginning, this right here, this is what made women doubt their appearance. This is what made women not like themselves way back in the book of Enoch.
Right,
But we
because it
don't
even
know
talks
it.
about how they taught them, you know, to put makeup on themselves instead of just that natural beauty
Yeah.
and the natural beauty of a feminine. Yeah, I know what you're saying. They wanted its distortions, like you just said. They was
Yes.
distorting what was true beauty and anything our belief systems. They was having us signing contracts, if you understand
Yeah.
what we mean by that now. That and that was a contract that was signed. So yeah, that's why I guess the gender thing is something that that it's like I said for me. I tell people all the time when I see women with their sons, I was like, well, you've never been a boy, I've never been a girl,
Right.
but then not in this life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But to understand that the divine feminine in each of us, it's in me, it's just a part of us. And that's why I believe that in early days of even some of these religious doctrines that they took the women out. They tried to take the goddesses and, well, we're talking back before this Christianity right now is what I'm talking on. Because even in the book of Enoch, it talks about how Inanna and Ereshkigal and these of the fallen angels that they chose as gods were worshipped for many, many years until the doctrination it changed. And those ones that she was just speaking of, the fallen angels, how they taught them how to war. They taught how to make up on women to, what I'm saying, I'm not going to say disguise, but I guess I forgot what the word is used in that passage that to help them do something. But and now in modern days, they call these things, some men would be like, oh, that's witchcraft. Why you put makeup on yourself and all this and you trying to disguise what you no, it's a
Yeah, but
it's a
if the
beauty thing
barn
now.
needs painting, you paint it.
Uh
If the
Morgan
barn
Lamford,
needs painting, you paint it, you know?
correct. Correct. You putting your Picasso on it.
Right?
Morgan says, hey, Morgan.
Very
Yes.
cool. Hey, Morgan. Hi, Christopher. I just want to read a couple of Christopher's comments because,
Go ahead.
as usual, they are amazing. He says, we love cat burn. Yes, most Lyrans do. Let's see, universes colliding, also correct. You can take away that something is expressed as a specific thing, but then it has to be transferred into being something else. You can't erase a vibration, you can only shift it. That's correct. You can alchemize darkness too. You can change negativity into positivity. You can take hate and dissemble it and understand that if you didn't feel something, for the thing or person that you hated, you wouldn't have that strong of emotion. So you have to just figure out what is leading you to feel those enhanced emotions, those enhanced feelings. What else did you have to say? Brains are just collections of neurons telling things that what to do in the body. Well, correct. And then he says, Kali is the blackness between the stars, the emptiness between the things, time, the mysterious feminine divine creation. Absolutely. Daryl says, I was chosen to help wake up this planet. Oh, Daryl, you and me both. But you have had a much more difficult job of it. Um, Daryl, in case you don't know, Daryl has some amazing photos because he has taken the time to go out in camo and disguise himself to the point that these, shall we say, visitors cannot see him, but boy, we can see them. Let's see, what else? Christopher says, the Watchers Nephilim, they wanted women to look like Alan Turing from 1952. Pretty much, pretty much. Gender wars existed. Gender wars existed since Atlantis. And also before then, because even some of the progenitor races had those in themselves and then gave them to the humans that they made. And Morgan says, hello, souls. And Daryl Milbauer says the female gods have animals with them. Interesting, because when I walk as a dream warrior, I have either a white lion or a white wolf that walks with me. So that's fascinating. And Christopher says, it's like the Rush song subdivision, conform. or be cast out. Oh, isn't there some truth in that one? And Christopher also says Daryl interacts with the Helia, the 4-foot moss lady. I had an independent experience with her before knowing that he also experienced her. Interesting, a 4-foot moss lady. Would that be an elemental? It
I
must
believe
be.
so, or a cryptic. If it's a moss, that's something of Earth.
Moss, moss, yeah, meaning, I've heard of a cryptid called the Mothman, but never the Moss Woman or Moss Man. So, oh, okay, there we go, moth.
Moth. Okay, yeah,
Moss lady.
Mothman. Yeah, I've
Lady
heard about
species,
those. Those
because I
foreshadow
have
when
heard of those.
disasters are going to happen.
Yes, I have heard of in fact, there was a sighting of the Mothman right before we had a bridge collapse here in Minnesota. And he is a harbinger, uh, uh, a uh, a person that will tell the future. Like they have had sightings of him, and then there'll be a disaster. So very interesting, Daryl, that you are being contacted by a moth woman.
Well, Daryl, I've speak to him. Yeah, I just spoke to him yesterday. He called me, and I talked to him a little bit, and he's having multiple different type of entities that are affecting him. And, I believe that, like if you understand portals and different type of things that open up, I'm not just saying you, I'm talking, when I say like, do you, I'm talking to the audience out there. If you understand what a PK manifestation is, it's an energy that becomes into our plane of existence, but through us, through your mentals. If you they say most teenagers, just like the movie Poltergeist, can produce them, but not just teenagers, but anybody going through any type of trauma, stress, overloads, breaks, and things of that sort. You can make
Are you
things manifest.
talking about, are you talking about creating a succubus or an incubus out of that energy?
Well, I wasn't talking about creating one, but he's apparently has that type of experience that's going on with him from me
It
talking
can
to him.
happen. That's
Yeah,
why
me
we
and
have to always, that's why we have to always monitor our thoughts and police them, because we, without realizing it, we speak things into existence.
correct.
So
And that's why we explaining to him that, yeah, what you're seeing that and others ain't seeing, that doesn't mean that you're crazy. It means that you're making something happen that others won't be able to understand or won't be able to see
right,
until it becomes where it can be to where other people, some type of these things when they occur, just like in the movie Poltergeist, that was an actual event that it affected the whole environment around it. And that's what I
right,
say about when you open some type of things and some of these things people do, you open doorways, but not just what you think is coming through, because that doorway is open. So you have to make
right.
sure that you're shielded and protected, before we dabble off into some of these things that we don't understand.
Exactly,
Uh,
because even a book can be a portal.
yes,
So,
yes,
believe it or not, if I have a used book, I will put it in a circle of salt before I ever touch it,
right.
because salt is a
Look,
purifier, and I don't want any negative energy.
look, I got my sage, my green and white sage from Rebel Ray.
Good.
I got to burn it, I guess. And he's talking about smudging.
Yes. Make sure that you have your windows open, and you
Mm,
go from your doorway and you go to every single corner
oh,
of your abode, and you pray your prayer and you ask for only those good, positive, energetics to stay, but all negatives must leave.
right. And she explained to me about,
Okay.
the white one, because the white one takes up all energy. So make sure that you have the positive, thoughts of what you want in, because it's taking all of it out. And then the green is more serenity and, the cleansing of any negative energies. And a lot of folks out there, I would like to say, if I can, Christian, that energies, that some of us, those are one of those things that we ignore, but you feel the wind, you smell things, you have, and that's an energy or something that's stimulating your brain. It
Your
has its
senses,
own frequency. Everything
right,
on this planet has a different frequency. And
right,
what she was speaking about, that next show that she's going to have, that when we understand that we're taking frequency downloads that is affecting us physically,
right,
the 5D towers, some of the things that are done with heart, CERN, and that's just, you got to make sure that you keep yourself healthy in ways mentally and physically, because those are what they're made for, to draw you, distract you, to make you think that you're crazy, sick, or dying. It's when you believe it, that's when it's going to happen. So
right,
believe and understand, like those positive affirmations that Christian were talking about, that you got to, hey, throw away them contracts. You got to unsign them and start a war for yourself
right.
and fight
And
against it.
watch what you say to yourself and others. Do you need to
Yeah.
go? I hear Jim calling for you.
Oh, my client's always calling for me. But
Mhm.
I have pizza going, so he'll be cool once the pizza comes out. He'll be,
Mhm.
I
Well,
wish
don't
I
be
had
scared
time.
anymore.
Hey, within the cauldron, is that Chris or Christy? Is it Chris or Christy? Because I just see within the cauldron there.
I don't know who that is. What a cool name.
You haven't? Oh, I used to do shows with Chris and Christy, Chris and Chrissy Dunham. They're he's a priest witch and she's a priestess. You haven't seen the within the card. Those guys were awesomely great to get me to understand because growing up in the Baptist, that so many things were taboo.
Oh,
Don't
yes.
do this, you're going to hell. If you learn that, and if you say the word
Yes.
voodoo, you're gonna get turned rogue. All kind of stuff. Fear
I
factors.
I grew up Emmanuel Evangelical Lutheran, which is as close to Catholic as you can be without being Catholic, right? And my
Wow.
mom was the church secretary. My grandmother, great grandmother, and her sisters founded the church. So we literally had family everywhere in church. But I was the little brat that was like, but it says here this, and this doesn't make sense, and I don't understand, and how could this happen? And yeah, I was questioning the Bible when I was 13 years old, and I was
Right.
told, you ready for this?
Mm,
It's not supposed to make sense. It's a question of faith.
mm,
Well, I
right.
don't put my faith in men, I put my faith in source.
Right.
So, yeah. And Morgan, yeah, but takes one to know one. Tell me something about
Yeah,
let's
I
see.
miss you guys too in the cauldron. Hey, get in touch with me, and hey, I'll definitely come and visit you guys again. We say you come up and got excited. We should reconnect, and we will, and we
Yeah,
definitely will.
I
Me,
would
me.
like
What's up? What religion, Tasha? Did you say that you Mormon? Yeah, Tasha was speaking on the other day of how she was born into the Mormon religion, and as she got older, it was like, okay, it's time to find answers for myself, and
yeah,
that's where we all get to those breaking points to where we have a new understanding. That's why I try to make sure people understand a religion is a way of life. That's why there's so many different sects of different religions. Christianity has about 60 million. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah.
But then, it's
Well,
different. Mhm.
because as many as there are, as many people as there are different beliefs. And
Right.
I mean, but okay, Mormonism, isn't that Joseph Smith? Didn't he have a contact with the Pleiadians?
I believe so. I don't, I don't like I
That's
said
right. If I remember
that
my history right.
Mormons are supposed to have connection with the Palladians. That's the director.
We can always ask Christopher. But I believe it was the Pleiadians. I believe that he had an encounter with an alien race, and that it showed him, shall we say, the error of the ways that religion were going. Like
Right.
Martin Luther, he nailed the theses to the wall, saying, "I don't agree with this," and that's how we
Mm,
got Lutheranism. So you know, there has to be change. And what I have seen in Christianity lately isn't the true message, because there is no division, there is no judgment, there is no um, pettiness in the true message that the Christos consciousness still encourages us to follow, which is look at the world with soft eyes and love your neighbor if you can. You know, love
Right,
people. Don't be sitting
right.
in judgment on them. You
We are one. That's right. And that's what I said. The religions have been misdirected into the stories instead of understanding what the stories mean or what Jesus, because that's what Christianity is based on, the life of Christ. That Old Testament is not based on the life of Christ. Christianity is and then when we lose track of through the stories, Damon T. Berry, rest in peace, the one that wrote, The Knowledge of the Forever Time. He spoke about when he first touched the pyramids, and it's like what it became clear to him of what even the hieroglyphs were saying. And when he went
right.
back and read the Bible, he found that they were the books were put in the wrong order. And when he put them in a certain order and read it, it became clear, just like the pyramids to him. So,
Right.
that's why I say to people, when I open my Bible, I just go to any page and it's talking to me, because the book has that type of power for, that's what it's there for, your healing, for different things. Now, that doesn't make me it doesn't make me my understanding of my creator, or I consider my God. Everyone wants to call me when I'm doing the show. Jermaine, my little brother. But
What's 19 years older than me?
who's that?
Oh,
Your
okay.
brother? Oh,
I
I see.
think that
Christopher.
Christopher is saying the but. Okay, first of all, he says that he thought
Monotheism.
Joseph Smith was just a schizophrenic
No,
predator,
Mormonism
which is
is
true.
false.
And then
Okay.
um, Daryl says my aliens are insectoid, interdimensional, and I have encountered those. I know what you're talking about. Um, And Christopher says the body is the temple of the church. A pure heart is the faith that makes sense, and behaviors match that pure heart. All else is bureaucratic extras. That is so true. That is so true. And then he says Mormonism is false. It's only 119 years older than Kristen.
I hate that he knows my age. That boy's too smart.
Yep.
Christopher Peoples, I'm really 21. I fooled you. You probably looked me up. So
Well,
yeah.
I would have to be negative in age if I was that. So, what? No, I just,
Yeah.
I don't drink alcohol. And I think that between that and just having a positive mental attitude and outlook on life, and not allowing anyone, even people I love dearly, to walk all over me anymore. It was like, when I had that mini stroke, everything changed because I got I got stricter, I got stronger, I got more defined in who I was and who I would allow into my life and how I allowed people to treat me. Because
Right.
time is precious.
So precious.
When you
It's linear.
decide
It's
to have more, it gets
moment.
even
That's
more
why
precious.
name of your show is just a moment. We have to think about just each moment and trying to do something creative or better for the next person. For the
Right,
next person. What are we doing it for? Just if we're just doing it for ourselves, that to me, I would say that's selfish, because that's
right.
what we were here to give back to others, whether through word, deed, actions, and that's where because we're one. When we figure out, hey, we ain't nothing but the same. We went through this life doing all this. When we become out of this soul and then judged by those that can judge us, we have to. That's when it's gonna hurt. That's
Yeah.
when they say that, when we really take that self look at what we could have did. That's why when I see people in need of help, where some people drive by, I will stop the car, pull over, and help somebody if they're in danger.
Good.
God, what would God think of me when He gave me the ability to help somebody and I didn't?
Yeah. It's different for me because, being female, I'm a little more vulnerable, and being disabled,
Right,
I'm even more vulnerable. But yes, if
right,
there's someone in need, like on Facebook, if someone cries out, I'm not going to ignore them. I'm going to ask them if there's anything I can do. My love language is to help people. I mean, truly, it is to help people, and to
mhm,
help them understand that they're better than they think they are. They are more than their programming, because we
right,
have to break that programming. We are so much more. And that is what we believe Source wants us to remember, is that we are more than what they have told us we are.
right.
Oh,
We are.
more than this, we teach people how to treat us. Isn't that the truth? Yeah, I had to get real stern, because people thought that kindness was weakness, and that's not the truth. It takes
Right.
more courage to be strong and kind than it is to be nasty and weak.
Yeah, and understand that, what people might perceive as one thing, like what you was talking about, being that warrior that you were saying, hey, you have to play your position, do your part, whatever part that is that you can do, do it. You know me,
Exactly.
I'm a motivator. I've said, okay, people with those messages, like my sister Kristen Harden, I couldn't wait for her to get back on her show. And love you and Paul, and all that you do, because I know what your message and what your purpose is. And I'm so glad that it's back there for not just us in America, but where I share to, it's going worldwide. And if we just take a little bit of some of the, that love energy that you're putting out and just try to think on it, and it kills me is so many people are so judgmental about just picking something just to, okay, that wasn't right, or this wasn't right, or that wasn't right. Then you heard what was said. You didn't listen. And,
Exactly.
and I think that's infectious with a lot of people. And,
Well,
I hope through it.
a lot of people feel that they have to take the position of judge. And what did we just read about in the agreements? We don't have to have a judge.
Right.
There is one judge, and that's Source. That's it. That's what we answer to now.
Exactly. Yep, because they say that, like when those positive affirmations that people think, oh, I did this bad, or I did this bad. I have a friend that when I visited him when I was living in Houston, and we was coming to visit my dad in Dallas, that we stopped over and seen him. I went to high school with him, and he said, Benny, he's like, you holding in something that you need to let go of. I'm like, bro, look, as much stuff I've been through and all that, nah, yeah. He's like, no, I'm gonna just tell you, bro, because you've kept something in, and I'm gonna tell you because I can feel it because I know you. I was like, he said, Benny, the first time you went to prison, you still upset with yourself because you think you let us down. Because these are one of the brothers I was writing letters to and everything. He said, but Benny, you didn't let us down because one, we seen the reason why you went. Two, we were scared to go, and you went and came back even stronger.
Yep.
And I told him, I said, well, I explained to him because more times than that didn't happen, but he was talking about that first time. I said, you know what, you're absolutely right, because I used to tell people that if I could have changed this or if I could have changed that, and seen it as something bad, because our society sees these things as bad, but doesn't see it as bad, but it was an experience. It was to learn from, to do better from, because
Yep.
it could have been worse. And
Yes.
understanding that we learn from each of these things that we grow through, and some of the things that we might think is bad, just don't think of it as bad. Change your thought processes. Think it is okay. I'm gonna learn from that. I'm gonna do better next time.
Start at looking at the world with softer eyes, and start with yourself. Be kinder to yourself first, and see what happens. See if how you look at other people starts to soften just a little bit, because you're
Yeah,
being kinder to yourself. I think that that's where people get really messed up, is that they hear all of that inner turmoil that they've been having in their head all
yeah,
these years, all that
right,
programming, all that domestication, all that crazy crap that
right,
doesn't need to be there. And when
Yeah.
you make that go away, you just say cancel. Because if you have a thought that is not negative, that you do not want to manifest, all you have to do is say cancel, 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 and it's gone.
Cancel. Cancel.
And another
Nice.
thing is looking at a white wall just for 5 seconds, standing up and taking a step to the right, you'll be in a different reality.
Right.
You will.
Amen to that. Right.
It's something about reprogramming your brain. And I will get into more of the frequencies and more of what we can actually try as a group to see if it works
Right.
because I'm excited. There are really specific things that are frequencies that we can try.
I can't wait. That's what I said when I did a show once that had me, number four, Bradley, I think Candace Fowler, Daisy Ten Ponies. It's called Into Light We Disclose. It's on YouTube that we did with Bald and Bonkers. Even Sherry Brett, she was in it where he used these different. He was designing different frequencies. I don't know how, but he was just putting the different frequencies to affect different emotions in what we're doing.
Who was doing different frequencies? Oh, I think hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody
That's
was
okay.
screaming at me. I have people yelling at me now that, I've become a servant at times. Psych. But
Not.
yeah, that's why I said I have to get off here in a little bit. So let me
To be
yeah,
wrapping up
it's
anyway,
important.
Benny. So thank you for joining me. Never
Mhm.
forget, everyone, that you are amazing. You are loved. Be well, be safe out there, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye.
Peace and love. Thank you, Kristen.